So, the next video is going to be the Sandersides reaction, but if you'll just allow me to talk about the Fnaf movie just one more time. So, I wanted to do a vlog just on the Fnaf movie, on the possibility of a second film, the box office. I wanted to just have a big sort of gush about it, basically. This video is going to contain spoilers. The first section won't. I will give a spoiler warning before I go into it. But yes, this video will have spoilers at some point, but I will give a text spoiler warning as well as a verbal spoiler warning before I go into things. But the first thing I wanted to talk about is the Five Nights at Freddy's film has been a huge success. It's been a massive success, and I've seen it 3 times now. I still love the film. I still have the same kind of issue with it as I did in my review video that I did, I think it was last week. I still have the same kind of issue, but that's about it really. Like, it is what I expected the film to be. I'm happy with the way that they executed it, and I love the film. I really love the film, and I'm hoping they go for a second film, and I think they will, because despite the Rotten Tomatoes score being, I think it's 29 or 28, the audience score at the time of recording is 89, and that's, especially with a Fnaf film, that's where it matters the most. Jason Blum has said a while ago that this is a film for the fans. This isn't really one for the critics. And if you look at the Rotten Tomatoes score, yeah, that makes complete sense. That's a big demonstration of that, and that's proof that that is the case. But at the time of recording, so I am recording this on the 4th of November. At the time of recording, the film had a budget of $25 million. At the time of recording, it has grossed over $154 million worldwide. And that includes streaming as well. So the film did also go onto the American streaming service Peacock, and this brings me on to the amount of records that it's broken. So, the amount of records that it's broken is, it is Blumhouse and Peacock's biggest opening ever. I think this is Peacock's biggest, like, most successful film that they've put onto the platform. But it's Blumhouse's biggest opening ever. It's the biggest opening weekend. It's the biggest Halloween weekend opening ever, and it's the biggest opening weekend for a horror film this year, which is pretty huge. Which is pretty mad. And while I knew the film was going to be successful, there wasn't really any question about it. I didn't expect it to be this successful. And I know that sounds really silly, because the Fnaf community, the Fnaf fandom, is extremely dedicated, is extremely passionate about the franchise. At the same time, you also had, and I will bring this up, you also had the Taylor Swift, is it called the Eras tour, which is the film of her tour. The Taylor Swift fans are also very committed and passionate. And I know that's been doing big numbers at the box office as well. And I think at the time of recording, Fnaf has just beaten the Taylor Swift film at the box office. Whether that will continue on, I don't know, because again, the Taylor Swift fans are just as committed and passionate as the Fnaf fandom. But the fact that it has gone past that is kind of amazing in terms of the box office spot. It's kind of amazing and impressive. I think the other reason I didn't expect it to be this huge is because we all know it's been through production hell. It's had multiple director walkouts, it's had a production company transfer, it's had so many different issues and problems that it took 8.5 years to make and get off the ground. While we are dedicated, we can also be a bit impatient. That's okay to say, I feel. And I did kind of expect, people to get maybe bored with the progress that the film was making. Maybe not as many people were going to turn up as they predicted. But the fact that this kind of brought even older fans who had maybe jumped off the franchise, as it were, have come back because of the film, it kind of speaks volumes. So yeah, it's done incredibly well. It's done way more successful than I expected it to, even though I knew there wasn't really a question that it wasn't going to be a success. Like, of course it was going to be a success, but the fact that it's done this well is kind of amazing. is very, very impressive, and I'm glad that it's doing well. But money talks, and this obviously means I feel like we're going to get a second film, especially with the way that the film ended. So, this is the spoiler warning. I will put a text warning down as well, but this is a spoiler warning. From this point onwards, I will be talking about the ending of the film. I will be talking about where I think the second film can go. I'll be talking about the end credits. And yeah, just in general, I will be talking spoilers about the Fnaf film. If you have not seen the Five Nights at Freddy's film, firstly go watch it, especially if you're a fan. It is a lot of fun. It has some issues, but it's a lot of fun. So please go see it, please go support it. I love it. And again, you know, I've seen it quite a few times in the cinema already. I think this is the film that I've seen in the cinema the most. But yes, this is your spoiler warning. Okay, you've had enough time. I've rambled on enough. This is your spoiler warning. The text warning is going to come off the screen now. Okay, so the ending of the Fnaf film is essentially the spring lock failure happens. The animatronics get told by Abby through her drawings that William was the one who killed them. He is not their friend, he is the one who killed them. William also admits that he kidnapped Mike's younger brother Garrett. And then it ends with spring lock failure. So William Afton gets the spring lock failure and ends up dying in the Spring Bonnie suit. The animatronics drag him off and shut him into a room at the back of the pizzeria. So again, a bit similar to FNAF 3. I feel like the second film could go in multiple different ways. Near the very end of the film, Abby, who is Mike's younger sister, also asks whether they can go and visit the animatronics sometime because they are her friends. And Mike says, you know what, you never know what could happen. So, there is quite a few things I feel that could happen in this. I will talk about one thing in a minute. The first thing I want to address is the toy animatronics who are in the second game. A lot of people think that the toy animatronics are going to be in the second film. Myself, I don't really know how you could put them in there. I'm not really sure, to be honest. I don't know how you could fit that unless it's discovered that there was another location. But again, for me personally, I don't think that would work for the film. And this is the other thing I feel like people need to realise, is that there were a lot of people who came out disappointed that the film didn't answer like any lore questions from the games or the books. It's a film. It's going to be a separate lore thing from the games and books, because when you're releasing a film, you are releasing it to the masses, to the mainstream, and also to fans as well as newcomers. So you kind of have to explain the story in a simple way. And I've kind of gone into this in my film review video actually, but you kind of have to technically start again, as it were, just so newcomers aren't lost, basically. But you kind of have to tell the story in like a really simple way, especially with FNAF with the lore being so convoluted and confusing with the way that it's told. I don't know how else to say this, but I don't really know what you were expecting if you were thinking that it was going to expand on existing lore. I feel like people went in with like the wrong expectations. Which again, I apologise if that sounds rude. I don't really know how else to explain it or to articulate my thoughts with that. But that didn't really make a lot of sense to me. That particular complaint didn't make a lot of sense to me. But going off on that, this is a different... They're telling the story in a slightly different way, you know, with Vanessa being Afton's daughter, with Mike not being an Afton, or so we know at the moment, not being an Afton. This is going off on a different sort of lore to a certain extent. It still has the 5 missing kids. It still has, you know, obviously William Afton being the killer. It still has the spring lock failure. And with it sort of took story elements from the Silver Eyes, with like the animatronics being controlled by William. So it does still have the basic lore there, but I think in terms of the second film, I don't really know how you could fit the toy animatronics into this, unless it is revealed that there was a second location. But what does need to be addressed is the yellow rabbit, there's the Spring Bonnie suit being stuck in that room. He's going to end up becoming Springtrap, so that's something that they're going to have to address. Whether that's in the second film or third film, I don't know. Vanessa, I think they need to talk about more, and whether or not they use flashbacks. I know a lot of people are wanting flashbacks. I kind of want flashbacks, especially with Vanessa's past, with how William treated her. I think that is something that I want. I want them to explore like Vanessa's past and what happened with her and William's relationship. Because I think that, yeah, that just needs to be delved into more, I feel like. And whether that's through flashbacks or, I don't know, her talking to Mike when she wakes up from the coma that she's in at the end of the film. What I can kind of guess is that the marionette, aka the puppet from the second game, is going to be in the second film. So, the end credits, which firstly, Living Tombstone FNAF song was amazing to hear in the cinema. It's amazing that their song is officially like canon in FNAF. I think that's amazing because that was the first FNAF song. So I think it's really, really cool that that's in the film. But the second piece of music that appears near the end is the puppet music box from the second game, and for some reason my focus has gone weird, and for some reason no one's talking about this. So the very last thing you hear is the puppet music box, so the I can't sing but you hear that at the end, and then when you get to the very, very end of the end credits, the little voice that appears in the FNAF, is it FNAF 2 or 3 mini games? The like weird robotic voice starts speaking out letters, which says, "Come find me." I have a theory that that's Garrett. So I think Garrett is going to be revealed as the marionette. I think Garrett is the puppet, and he is the one sending out the message. So with the pizzeria now destroyed, I feel like what's going to happen in the second film is, because Mike is constantly sort of basically drummed into you throughout the film that he has like lucid dreams. He keeps revisiting the past to try and see if he can change anything or find out who his youngest brother's kidnapper was. But I think that's going to come back into play in the second film. So I think what's going to happen is he's going to start having these lucid dreams again. Garrett is going to start calling back to him, and he's going to be forced to go back to the abandoned pizzeria. The other thing that I think that could happen is, because William is now technically dead, it's established at the beginning of the film that the reason the building hadn't been demolished yet was because, as Matthew Lillard says, the owner just couldn't bear to let it go yet. But now that William is dead and there's no one there to make sure it doesn't get demolished, I think another angle that it could go is maybe we could get a point of view from a construction crew or demolition crew who go in to make sure everything's okay. They find the animatronics, they find Springtrap, and it all goes wrong from there. And then that way Mike and Abby are maybe forced to come back to the pizzeria to like figure things out and sort out what's happened. So I think that's another angle that it could go as well. Again, I feel like the second film could go in like quite a few different directions, which I think is really, really interesting. You could have echoes, if you're going to go with the demolition crew storyline, you could have echoes of like the Mimic story. So in Tales from the Pizzaplex books, I read it ages ago, so let me try to remember. I think there was a construction crew who went into the Freddy Fazbear pizza place, or Fredbear pizza place, and they found the Mimic killed him, and the story continued on from there. but I feel like it could have elements of that. But again, whether people would want the film to like bring in book elements again, I don't know. I don't know whether people would be happy about that or not, because I know some people are like, this is a bit confusing that you put the book elements in with the film. I personally think it works, but again, that is what some people are saying. So I feel like it could go a few different ways. I feel like you need to have more context with Vanessa and more background to her life. Mike and Abby, you need to find a way to bring them back to the pizzeria, and I think that could either be through the construction team or demolition team coming in, because no one is now looking after the building. They find Springtrap, they find the other animatronics, all hell breaks loose, they're forced to come back. I'm looking at my notes. Or it could be the puppet, who I think is going to be Garrett, calls Mike back to the pizzeria. I think the puppet is in that building somewhere. And I didn't want to bring this up because I don't know if it's real or not, but some people have said that actually in some of the shots in the first film, or in this film, you can see the marionette, like occasionally. I don't know whether that's true or not, or whether that's just people spreading rumours. I don't know. I haven't noticed it myself, but again, if that is the case, then that's what they're setting up. They're setting up for the marionette to be in the second film. So those are different sort of ways I think you could do things. But yeah, I pretty much think a second film is going to happen. Considering, you know, the success that this film is having, I think that's kind of a no-brainer really. But yeah, I kind of just wanted to do a vlog on my predictions of what I think the second film is going to do. I wanted to talk about the box office grossing, which is amazing. Which is really amazing. And I'm so happy it's doing well. And I'm very interested to know where the second film's going to go. But I just thought I'd do a vlog, just sort of gushing about the film again. But yeah, thank you all for watching, and I will see you all soon. Bye!